Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Welcome back to a brand new match preview on the channel. It's Wolves' final game before Christmas. We're on the road this weekend against Leicester City, and it's Wolves' first game under new head coach Vitor Pereira. Lots of exciting times coming up. I'll be giving my thoughts throughout this video. Of course, we'll have all the gossip and news from Vitor Pereira's first pre-match press conference as Wolves head coach. And we'll have the opposition perspective later on as well. And as always, big shout out to our channel partners over at Football Prizes this week. Actually, for the next couple of weeks, there is a signed Nelson Semedo shirt up for grabs. To get involved with that, you can do so in with the link at the top of the description down below. And it's just 39p per entry. So if you want to get involved in that, please do so by visiting the link in the description. But yes, Wolves are on their travels, and it is a little bit exciting going into this weekend's game because we don't know a hell of a lot about Vitor Pereira. We don't know, as right now, we don't know how he's going to set the team up. But what we do know is that he's got a winnable game definitely this weekend against Leicester, who are under new management themselves over the last few weeks under Ruud van Nistelrooy, and started off quite promisingly against West Ham, but really this weekend had a bit of a shock result. I say shock, they lost, but probably a lot heavier than they would have wanted it to be. Lost 4-0 to Newcastle United. But we saw Vitor Pereira, who was officially announced yesterday, which was Thursday, and we had his first pre-match press conference. And look, it's very hard to read into exactly what Vitor wants to, how he's going to line up and how he's going to play. But what he made out, really, he wants Wolves to have their own identity. I've said it on my previous video about the new head coach that defensively he's got a fairly decent record across his career, and I think that's the biggest job and biggest challenge for him, is how he can stop Wolves conceding goals, because ultimately that was our biggest downfall, and ultimately that's the reason that Gary O'Neill was sacked. So he needs to sort of address that, but quite cryptic about certain other things. Nelson Semedo's captaincy he was asked about, didn't give a concrete yes or no answer about that. Wants to learn more about his players. So certainly going into 2025, we may well see a third Wolves captain for the season. But you would assume as of right now, Semedo might hold the armband for this weekend. In terms of suspensions, obviously Ryan Aït-Nouri is out. Matheus Cunha, though, no news, and in this instance, no news, I suppose, is good news. So Wolves are expecting him to be available now for this game against Leicester, which will be exciting and interesting. Very interesting how the FA haven't said anything as of yet. Are they going to say anything between Sunday and Boxing Day against Manchester United? Maybe. Depends who's working at the FA in between Christmas and New Year, but they might make a decision on Monday, to be fair. But as of right now, they're expecting Cunha to be available for Sunday's game. João Gomes will return after being suspended against Ipswich as well. And only one absentee, really, or one player that Vitor definitely confirmed was out was Pablo Sarabia with an injury, calf injury. It might just be an injury for Pablo, but I've got a feeling that maybe a move is lined up for Pablo Sarabia in January, because he's not been available for the last few weeks or so. He did pick up a little knock. I think it was the game he scored in. Was it the Southampton game? But maybe a move away is lined up for him. But other than that, obviously there were a few doubts from last week. Jose Sá, it'll be interesting to see if he gets the nod ahead of Sam Johnston. You would assume maybe with the Portuguese connection and the Porto connection that Sá might well get a nod for this weekend. But the left back area is an interesting one for me, because it's an area that Wolves don't really have a lot of depth in. In terms of shape and formation, Vitor didn't really give much away on that. But is he going to go with a back four or back five? He's played with both throughout his career. I would maybe say quite a defensive back five. But from what he says, he wants Wolves to have their own identity, but he wants to win games as well. I would assume it's going to take some while to see Wolves play really nice, entertaining football. But ultimately, for me, I just want to stay in the Premier League. So between now and May, I don't care if we stink up the gaff. As long as we pick up enough points to stay in the league, that's all I am bothered about right now. And I'm hoping that Vitor can shore us up defensively. I think games like this weekend against Leicester are there for the taking. Look, Leicester fans are going to be looking at this game and thinking the exact same. But Wolves should be looking at this as a winnable match, as they would be. So I think with both teams quite fragile defensively, it's going to be interesting to see who strikes first, really. But it's really pivotal for Wolves, and hopefully we do get the look of this new manager bounce. Now, whilst I'm on recording, I'm going to check out Leicester, because you'll see in a minute on the opposition preview, they were really cautious, mainly about the goalkeeper situation, because their goalkeeper have been fantastic for them throughout the campaign. They have put out a news article about it, but their goalkeeper has been fantastic throughout the campaign, and there were real concern. I've spoken to a few Leicester fans this week, real concerns that if he was not available, then Leicester more than likely are going to be in a lot of trouble. And ultimately, they reckon that's why Leicester have been outside of the relegation zone for so long. So very quickly now, we've got Ruud van Nistelrooy here. The goalkeeper is going to be assessed. So that will be interesting. Like I said, so the goalkeeper is Hermansen, Mads Hermansen. Other than that, they've got a couple of backup goalkeepers, but no one that the fans are 100% convinced with. But they're saying at the moment there's a possibility that he may well play. But other than that, of course, they've got the likes of Jamie Vardy still smashing the goals. They've got a lot of talent throughout that team. Defensively, not fantastic. Same as Wolves, really. But what I'm hoping is that Wolves get the new manager bounce, and Leicester are still fragile after last weekend's defeat. But 3 points here will be massive for us. We have to win this game, really. And I think there's so much, if we get the win here, there will be fans going into this game still unsure about the manager, but they'll get some more fans on side. I think it'll give us a bit of a morale boost before Boxing Day, and give us a bit of momentum. I think there'll be so much more excitement going into the game at Boxing Day at Molineux against Manchester United if we do manage to get 3 points here. But look, let's chuck up a predicted lineup. This could be completely wrong, because like I've already said, I really don't know how Vitor is going to line us up or play us. But this is what I've gone with. I think Sarr, if he's available, will start in goal. Semedo right back. 3 centre-backs of Dawson, I think, will come back in. Bueno and Totti. I think Matt Doherty at left back. Maybe Pedro Lima could be in there on one of the sides. I don't know. Maybe Rodrigo Gomez as the left wing back as well. I think João Gomez comes back in. He's a player that Vitor would have been familiar with. He would have managed him before. I think Andre stays in there, to be honest, as well. Cunha will play. Strand Larsen will play. And then it just throws up that last sort of place, really. Will he stick with another midfielder and sort of bolster that midfield? Or will he go with somebody else? For now, I'll go with Lamina, but that midfield three just didn't work for Gary O'Neill, and I see like a front two there of Strand Larsen and Cunha. I think Wolves will probably want to get another attacking player in there, so probably ditch a midfielder and maybe Hwang. I know, look, he's not had he's had a little bit of stick from Wolves fans, but or Gedge actually. Gedge, let me put Gonzalo Gedge in there. I think Gedge, Cunha, Strand Larsen. I think that's your three up there. But so many chances. This is why I think every player that starts on Sunday and substitutes have got a point to prove. They'll want to play for the new manager. It could be a fresh slate for all of these players, so they'll want to play for the new manager. And hopefully we see that in their performance on Sunday as well. But I'm going to the game. I'm really looking forward to it. It's been a while since I've been to the King Power. Fortunately, I haven't seen us win there, I don't think, so I certainly hope that can change. But here are the thoughts of Locks from the Blue Tinted Glasses podcast to get his thoughts on Leicester season so far and what we can expect from the Foxes this weekend. So then, guys, delighted to be alongside Locks from the Blue Tinted Glasses podcast. Big Leicester fan to talk all things Leicester ahead of this weekend's game. Locks, thanks for joining me, mate. How have you been keeping?
Yeah, all good, mate. All good. Nearly Christmas time, so yeah, counting down the days, mate. It's a shame the football isn't so good, but there we go.
Yeah, I mean, you and me both. Wolves down there struggling, as are Leicester, to be fair, but still outside the relegation zone, which is obviously big for you guys. Let's talk about your season so far. We're approaching the midway point. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of Leicester fans going into the season would have probably just wanted to stay up, and as it stands, you would do that. But what's sort of been your thoughts on this season so far? We'll get obviously onto the manager situation shortly, but what in terms of the matches and how you guys have been playing, what have been your thoughts so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a weird season so far, to be fair. We started with a decent point against Tottenham. A lot of us were worried really for the season because we had a lot of stuff looming over our heads, like the points deduction. We were expecting that to come. Obviously, that's not happened. And yeah, the whole manager situation, like you mentioned, that's that's been a little bit weird. I think we've been outside the bottom three all season. Or maybe bar one week, and that's good. That's if the season finished now, we'd be happy with that. The manager situation is a whole discussion on its own. I mean, we as Leicester fans thought that performances this season hadn't been as good as maybe the squad was capable of. A lot of outsiders seem to think our squad's terrible. We a lot of us disagree. Inside Leicester, I think some of the players that they've got vast amounts of Premier League experience. So yeah, we haven't been too pleased with some of the performances, but they do on a whole look like they're heading up. I know the Newcastle game ended really, really badly, but in 3 games now under the new manager, it looks okay. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was interesting because a lot of people were surprised by the sacking of Steve Cooper when you were sat outside the drop zone and brought in Ruud van Nistelrooy, who I am interested by because I know obviously we for weeks were linked with maybe moving Gary O'Neill on, and I was intrigued by the Van Nistelrooy appointment because I really wasn't sure if he were to come to Wolves for argument's sake. I wouldn't. I don't know if I would be convinced by it because I loved Ruud van Nistelrooy as a kid, as a player as well.
Yeah.
But in management, I probably would have wanted at this stage of the season where you're on the table, maybe a little bit more experience. But I mean, talk us through why was Steve Cooper sacked and your immediate and early thoughts on how Ruud's getting on at Leicester so far as well.
Yeah, look, the Steve Cooper thing, I feel sorry for him a little bit because he came into the club when apparently nobody else would. I don't know how true that is. We were linked with Ruud van Nistelrooy. Points deduction or not, I think it's very naive to think that Steve Cooper was the only manager who wanted to come to the Premier League club. I think that's a load of rubbish. But people weren't behind him from the start. It was a small number of people, a number of Leicester fans that were actually behind him. So he started off on a bad foot from the beginning.
Was that because of the Forest past mainly, or managerial quality as well?
I think it's both. A lot of external people, especially Forest fans, love to put the Forest thing in there, but I think the problem is that we had Enzo Maresca. So since Leicester won the league, we sacked Ranieri, brought in Craig Shakespeare, and then after that appointment, the club went down a very possession-based route. Really, from that moment, we had Claude Puel, Brendan Rodgers, we had Dean Smith for like 8 games, and then Enzo Maresca. And a lot of Leicester fans, including myself, thought that they had no plan. I mean, to go from Rodgers, Enzo Maresca to Steve Cooper, it doesn't really make too much sense. And some people say, oh, it's because he kept Forest up. I mean, I don't think he did a good job in the Premier League with Forest. I think he was fortunate first season. Leicester, Leeds and Southampton were horrendous. We went down. The next year he gets sacked. And now look at Forest. Look at them now. Look at Forest now. So, yeah, we weren't really buying it from the start. And Graham Potter was linked in the summer. Ruud van Nistelrooy was linked, and we ended up with Cooper. That's probably a large part of the reason. I think a lot of fans thought it was just unambitious. And maybe if we were having a points deduction, okay, maybe it wouldn't have been the worst appointment. But then you look at it, if we had the points deduction now, we'd be in the bottom 3 anyway. So he wouldn't have had us out of it. So Ruud van Nistelrooy, look, when Cooper was sacked, again, the usual suspects were linked. Graham Potter, Ruud van Nistelrooy, David Moyes. I think even Southgate was linked at one point, which had us worried a little bit. Lee Carsley as well. I was like, what? Yeah. But yeah, we were happy with Ruud. The owner said it's come out in recent weeks that the owner, it was his decision fully, just on him. He seems to be going down that route again, and I get it. I get the criticism a little bit about, he's got no experience managing a relegation team, if you like. But I think he brings a bit of stability. I mean, you saw him at Man United, right? I think we've he brought a little bit of stability to Man United during a rough period. He did quite well. I mean, he beat Leicester twice. I think he drew with Chelsea as well. And now he's come in here and we got a win against West Ham first game. We got a draw against Brighton and then obviously thumped against Newcastle. But if you look at it on the whole, 4 points from them 3 games, it's actually not a bad return. It's a really good return, actually, from a team fighting for safety. So I think he'll bring it off. I think we'll stay up now, mate. If I'm honest with you, I would have preferred if Gary O'Neill was still at Wolves, if I'm honest. But yeah, I personally, I'm not sold on your appointment either. So
I mean, as it's probably a discussion for another video. It's an interesting one, and this weekend's game against Leicester is going to be intriguing because I think there are Wolves fans excited. You always have an element of excitement, don't you, when a new manager comes in? But I think this is a big test for him because I would say both sets of supporters probably look at this game as winnable. And if Wolves can get the win on Sunday, that'd be a massive boost for us. And we've got some really tough fixtures. We play United and Spurs immediately after the Christmas, so we need to win this one. Really, are you concerned, Locks, about? Well, let me rephrase that question. So, in terms of what has changed tactically at Leicester, or what has changed immediately from Steve Cooper to Van Nistelrooy? Because what I was going to say in terms of concerns were, and correct me if I've read into this completely wrong, defensively as such, the amount of chances and shots that you have conceded in those first 3 games is quite alarming, to be fair. Although you've got those points, is that a concern for you going into the rest of the Premier League season? Or what else has changed really since Ruud's come into charge?
Yeah, I think we've conceded like nearly 70 shots in 3 games, which is just ridiculous. Yeah, of course it's concerning. I think the West Ham game in particular, I think they had 31 shots, which is crazy. I would say, though, that many of them were half chances, were from areas that weren't concerning at all, that weren't danger areas. So I think the stats are a little bit skewed on that part. But I think when he came in, there were clear issues that we've seen all season. The right-hand side, which is still a problem now, but the right-hand side is seriously lacking quality. I mean, Abdul Fatawu, who is probably our best winger, our most exciting player, and the player probably with the most potential, he had an ACL when he was on loan. When he was on the international break with Ghana. So we haven't got him all season now. The right back, James Justin, who people know, they've seen him in the Premier League for 4 or 5 years now. And he had an ACL injury 3 years ago, and that kind of killed him a little bit. He's not the player he was before that. I think he had an England call up before that as well. So he seems all season long, he was very exposed. Steve Cooper, the system that we had going on, we had the right winger, either Facundo Buonanotte or Jordan Ayew at times, sometimes Fatawu cutting inside, which had James Justin kind of bombing forward, and that left us really exposed on the right. And I think the main thing that what Ruud has tried to do is, in terms of a structure, be a lot more compact, defending a 4-4-2, and it has worked. There's an improvement, which sounds crazy because, again, we've conceded 70 shots, but there is an improvement, and the areas that the opposition are getting them shots from aren't as dangerous. But there's still massive improvement needed, and I think the transfer window is gonna be needed. We're gonna need to spend some money to try and patch some holes because Steve Cooper and Ruud van Nistelrooy, neither of them settled on a back line that worked for them, that they were happy with. It was a lot of chopping and changing, and even now we're expecting a different back line this weekend because Connor Cody got absolutely rinsed against Newcastle. So there'll be some more changes. But yeah, a lot of work for Ruud. He has made some improvements, and I think overall in those 3 games we've looked much better than we were before, which is good.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Wolves are going to have to dip into the market, and defensively, we've been similar to that. Gary O'Neill has just not been able to settle on a back line, and I think that's what cost him. Really, I mentioned it on the I was on the overlap earlier this week, where under Nuno you could have players that dropped poor performances, but they keep their place just to add a bit of stability on that back line. I think that's what you need, and Gary O'Neill, I'd love to see the amount of different combinations of the back 4 and back 5 that he tried this season. Also, yes, he had a couple of issues of injuries and so on, but it's intriguing. And other than defence, Locks, I look towards your front line, and I mean, a lot of people probably going into this season we probably weren't too concerned about Leicester's firepower, but Jamie Vardy's still finding the back of the net, isn't he? He's still scoring a good amount of goals. I mean, I'm looking at what's the long-term plan for that? Because I'm looking, your other strikers, you've got Daka, who I believe is injured right now. You've got Odson Edouard, who's on loan, and then Jordan Ayew's a little bit older as well. Is there anybody else in there that has got firepower, or do you think that's another area that maybe Leicester need to look towards in January?
Daka is fit now. He
Oh,
was
right, sorry,
out.
yeah.
He
Okay,
was
yeah.
out for until probably 4 weeks ago. I don't think we will sign a striker in the window. I think they will be happy with Vardy and Daka. Ayew's not been playing as a striker. He's been playing a little bit deeper, either at a 10 or out wide. Odson Edouard will be going back to Crystal Palace in January. He's played about 16 minutes or something ridiculous like that
Yeah.
in the league. Not many minutes at all. So he'll be going back. And I think we'll probably look to recall Tom Cannon. He's on loan at Stoke and he's doing quite well, actually. He had a tough start, but he's kind of starting to score some goals. So I think we'll call him back. But the areas of concern, I mean, every single Leicester fan is in complete agreement. We need a right back, a centre back, and a right winger. They're the three positions we need. I think our midfield is, although against Newcastle we were down to bare bones, we've had like injuries and suspensions. I think overall the depth is okay for a relegation scrap. I mean, we've got Ndidi, we've got Samare, we've got Oliver Skip, Harry Winks. Yeah. So we've got enough there in terms of the sixes and the eights. Facundo Buonanotte is magic. He's a hell of a player. He's going to the top, I think, for Brighton or someone else. And then we've got Bilal El Kanouche as well, who we signed this year for 20 million quid from Belgium, and he's looking like a real talent as well. So yeah, the midfield probably isn't something that will get touched in January, and same with the strikers. It'll be wingers and it'll be the defence, centre back, right back. They're the priorities.
Yeah, definitely. Same for Wolves as well. I think that back line really needs looking at as well. And quickly before we finish off the score prediction, is there a goalkeeping issue at the moment for Leicester? Is it in terms of what's? I mean, Wolves have had issues with goalkeeper, but someone mentioned it on our podcast this week. Is there anything going on there?
There is, yeah. This is going to sound biased, but if you look at the data, it's there. Mads Hermansen is I think that he has been the best goalkeeper in the Premier League this season. He is actually the reason why under Steve Cooper we weren't in the bottom three. This is why it really annoyed Leicester fans. People say, "Oh, Cooper's got you outside the." No, it was Mads Hermansen. He was absolutely he still is absolutely incredible. The amount of shots he's faced and all of that, but he picked up a groin injury at half time against Newcastle. Yeah. And Danny Ward came on, who is the most hated man in Leicester, which is I feel bad for him sometimes, but he was our goalkeeper when we got relegated, when Schmeichel left. He came in and he is truly the worst goalkeeper I've ever seen in the Premier League. He is horrific. So he was on the bench. He played. We conceded 3 in about 15 minutes.
I think he's after half time. Goalkeeper, my sub goalkeeper, because he's that cheap on FPL. I think he's still in the team actually.
Yeah, get him. Even if you don't play him, get him gone. But yeah, we have a backup keeper called Jakub Stolicic, who I think he's Polish. I'm guessing he is by the name, but he was the backup keeper last season for Enzo Maresca in the Championship, and the reason for that is because he's better with his feet than Danny Ward. And his shot stopping, you could say, is probably better as well. He's a little bit shorter. He's on the shorter side, like Hermansen, but he's a much better goalkeeper in our eyes. He has been injured, but he played for the under-21s this week. So our hope as Leicester fans is that he's thrown straight in against Wolves, because Danny Ward should not start a Premier League game ever again. He is really, really, really bad. So
have you still got Dan? Is it Iverson? Is he still knocking around, or is he?
He is still at the club. We actually, when Dean Smith came in the relegation year for the last 8 games or so, he actually put Iverson in goal, and he was much better than Ward. Last season in the Championship, when Maresca came in, didn't get a look in because he's not great with his feet. So I think it'll be similar this time round. If Stolicic isn't ready, then yes, Iverson should be the keeper over Ward, because he's just better all round. But Stolicic should be the guy because he's better with his feet. He's got good shot stopping as well, so he should be the man. So yeah, we're just hoping really. We haven't had the press conference today. I think it's tomorrow. We should find out as well the extent of Hermansen's injury. I'll tell you now, if it is a lengthy spell out, our chances of survival do drop quite a bit just off the back of that because of how good he's been. So
Yeah, no, interesting. But Locks, in terms of this matchup, I know it's going to be a very tough game. I'm going to try and trouble you for a score prediction, mate. What are you thinking?
Um, it's a tough one. If O'Neill was here, I'd be saying a Leicester win. With the new manager, even though I'm not, I don't know a lot about him and I'm not convinced. It's the new manager bounce. It just is a thing. It happens, and so I think 1-1. I've gone with 1-1, which is pretty crap, to be honest with you. Not
Yeah, it
not a,
doesn't
not a
really
great
help either
great
side, does
game.
it? But
Exactly. Because we have Liverpool, Man City, Villa afterwards, which is
similar running to us. Then we've got United, Spurs, Villa, I think, or Spurs, Forest, Villa, something like that. Yeah, really tough running. So we a lot of things you talk about very similar at Wolves as well, mate. But I mean, it's felt like from the start of November to now, this game were a stretch of winnable games for Wolves, and we won just two in that stretch really. So Wolves really need a win somewhere, put a bit more pressure on Leicester, because at the moment we're 5 points behind you guys, so really do need a victory. But Locks, thanks for jumping on Talking Wolves. Where can people find you and your content if they wish?
Yeah, absolutely. Blue tinted glasses, or on YouTube, it's at Blue Tinted Glasses LCFC. It's a reasonably new channel, a few months. So yeah, we'll have lots of content over the weekend, obviously, for any Wolves fans. So yeah, check it out if you've got some time on your hands.
Perfect, mate. Will do. I'll make sure I leave a link to that in the description down below. And after Sunday, mate, have a great Christmas and all the best for the rest of the season as well.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, mate. And you.
Buddy. Thank you. So big thanks to Locks. I'll make sure I leave a link to their podcast, his podcast in the description down below. And let me know your thoughts as well, guys. Going into this game, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, let us know your score predictions. And of course, if this is the last video that you're going to be catching before Christmas, please do have a Merry Christmas and enjoy it with your friends and family. I finally broke up for work. I'm so tired. It's been a mentally draining month. But I'm really glad that this is here, and a win for Wolves this weekend would kick off a fantastic festive period. But guys, please do enjoy the rest of your weekend. Fingers crossed it's 3 points. We'll be back for the podcast on Monday. I think on Christmas Eve I should have the Manchester United preview out as well, and of course all the match reaction and fans react on Sunday evening as well. Until then though, guys, look after yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one.